Today, I'm sharing my secret weapon for managing OCD urges. If you've ever felt completely terrified of your strong, intrusive, unwanted OCD urges, this is going to be the episode that will change the game for you. I'm going to break down what an OCD urge is, why it feels so real, and most importantly, teach you my secret weapon for improving your reaction to these urges. I'm here, so happy to be with you. My name is Kimberley Quinlan, and welcome back to your Anxiety Toolkit. This is Theo. He's taking a nap. Today, we're going to talk about compassionate management of anxiety, OCD, and all the tough emotions that come along with it. So let's start by understanding specifically what these OCD urges are. OCD urges are intense experiences or feelings that make you feel like you have to act on a certain thought or an impulse, even though it completely contradicts your values. In that moment, the urge makes you feel like you are going to lose control of your body completely. Some people say it's like an out-of-body experience, whereas others might say that they feel like there is this force inside them that makes them feel like they're going to act in ways they do not want to. These urges could involve either harm thoughts, sexual thoughts, maybe blurting out words, maybe while you're driving your car, when you're with your kids, or with your loved ones. Whatever it is, OCD makes these urges feel overwhelmingly real. OCD urges feel real because OCD always has a way to target exactly what we value most, making the stakes feel incredibly high. And in addition, these urges are often accompanied by other emotions that make them feel even more dangerous, such as high levels of anxiety, panic, uncertainty, anger, guilt, or even this whoosh sensation that goes throughout your body. For instance, if you might experience harm OCD, you may see content online about intrusive thoughts. It's really common. However, instead of just having intrusive thoughts, you might also experience these intense intrusive urges to harm a loved one, even though you deeply care for that person and you would never want to cause harm on them. The urge might also be accompanied by vivid mental images, really graphic images that make it feel as though you're on the brink of completely losing control. Now, these urges, they're incredibly distressing, often making people engage in OCD compulsions. OCD compulsions are rituals we do to reassure ourselves that we wouldn't act on that urge. Now, these compulsions might provide temporary relief, but as we know, ultimately they just reinforce the obsession and make the urge cycle even worse. Now, another example of an urge would be sexual intrusive urges. A person might experience an unwanted urge involving inappropriate or taboo sexual thoughts or sexual acts, leading to intense feelings of guilt and shame. They may worry that these thoughts completely define who they are, even though they know deep down these thoughts completely contradict their values. The urge might compel them to avoid certain people or certain situations or engage in compulsions such as mentally reviewing or mental compulsions to get reassurance. OCD urges also include urges of blurting out words or inappropriate phrases in public, even though the person doesn't want to say them. Now, this particular type of OCD urge creates significant anxiety because, number one, like with all of them, it opposes their values of kindness and respect. It also makes them worry that they'll be judged by others if they blurt it out, and they're often really upset and worried about the impact of what will happen if they publicly do blurt out these words in public. Maybe they're not politically correct. Maybe they're afraid of being cancelled. Now, one particularly challenging part of OCD urges involves the fear of harming a baby. Now, this is commonly known as postpartum OCD. And new parents, both mums and dads, might have vivid urges of harming their infant despite their deep love for their child. It also involves nurses, teachers, grandparents, caregivers. All groups of people can experience these urges as well. And what's essential to know is that these intrusive thought urges mean nothing about you as a person. They can happen to anyone, as I've mentioned. Similarly, someone who might have intrusive urges might have the urge to cheat on their partner, despite having absolutely no desire to do so. This is a common obsession, and it shows up really commonly in relationship OCD. Now, unlike other intrusive thoughts that start with what if, like what if I do this, or what if this bad thing happens, OCD urges might be accompanied with a direct command, such as do it, or you want this, or you have to do this. Now, this is a lesser known obsession, and it's called a command or a demand obsession. These make the urges feel even more real and even more dangerous. And I know firsthand how real these urges can feel. Let me tell you a little story. When I had a newborn, I would often have urges to throw him down the stairs, those ones right there. And when I was visiting my parents in the 18th story of their apartment balcony, I had these real urges as if my arms had been injected with steroids, making me feel like I really could hurl him a far distance. My body felt hot and prickly, and I even felt this tension in my legs as if I was preparing to act. It was completely terrifying. And I handled it exactly the way I want you to handle it, which is now where I share with you my secret weapon for managing OCD urges. What I want you to do is do nothing at all. That's right. No judging, no giving the urge any meaning, no responding with catastrophic thinking, no trying to solve why that urge was there or what it meant or why it felt so strong. Just let the urge be there. Let it rise and fall and be as kind as you can until it passes. Allow it to pass naturally without interfering with it, because any attempt to change it or avoid it or solve it is only going to make that obsession and that urge worse. Judging yourself or attributing meaning to these urges only feeds them. Think of it as a wave that rises and falls on its own. Now, let's break this down into some baby steps. First, I want you to notice the urge as it arises and say to yourself, okay, I'm experiencing an urge right now. Just name it to tame it, right? It's a common skill. Then you're going to acknowledge that just because the urge is present, it doesn't mean there's an actual danger, okay? It might feel dangerous, but feelings aren't facts. It's important to remember. Now, you're also going to observe the urge without trying to make it go away. You're just going to observe it. If it feels particularly strong, you might even challenge it with like, bring it on, let's go, let's have this urge. Ultimately, you're to not interfere with it. You're not to intellectualize it. You're not to overthink it. Just allow it. Now, the last point here is return to your life and engage in activities that matter to you. Do not let OCD urges stop you from living. Now, when working with my clients, I tell them to continue engaging in activities, even when the urge is present. For example, take your child or your dog if you're having urges about your puppy, and play with them, cook with them. Maybe you're going to spend some time blowing raspberries on their bellies. This reinforces that having an OCD urge doesn't mean that it's dangerous and that you should stop engaging with your life. If you're curious about more of the broader treatment of OCD urges, like you, beyond the secret weapon that I'm sharing with you, we can talk about the standard treatment for OCD, which is exposure and response prevention. We call it ERP. Now, ERP is the practice of helping you manage the anxiety and uncertainty, especially when you have these OCD urges, without resorting in engaging in compulsions. Now, there are 6 types of compulsions that we're targeting. They are physical compulsions, avoidant compulsions, reassurance-seeking compulsions, mental compulsions, self-punishment compulsions, and depressive compulsions. Now, the goal is not to reduce the urge, but to change your reaction to them. Again, training your brain that you can respond in a healthy way. Now, if you do not have access to an ERP therapist, you can check out ERP School. It's an online course that provides step-by-step guidance. It's an on-demand course. It's self-led, and it's designed to teach you skills to manage these OCD obsessions and urges, intrusive thoughts, and reduce the urge to engage in compulsions. You can go to CBT School, or you can check the link in the show notes. Okay, so before we finish up here, let's address the elephant in the room. If you find yourself repetitively ruminating over whether you have OCD or if these urges mean you're a dangerous person, recognize this as OCD trying to pull you back into mental compulsions. It's a very, very solid trick. The key is to embrace the uncertainty and respond with as much kindness as possible. This process also involves an immense degree of discipline. So with practice and reps, it will get easier. And lastly, you're going to need to practice a ton of patience, managing OCD urges, and breaking those breaking those compulsions. It's not a linear process. So just take baby steps. That is the best way to have OCD recovery. I want you to celebrate every win and remember, as we always say, today is a beautiful day to do hard things. Okay, there you have it. We've reviewed what an OCD urge is. We've reviewed how to manage the urges, and we've talked about my secret weapon when OCD urges show up. Now remember, overcoming OCD and managing urges takes time and practice. Be gentle, and I hope you have a wonderful day.